I'm going to invite all the members of the community to join me in the City Council commemoration of the annual National Days of Remembrance of the Holocaust. In a tribute to this event, I'd like to invite Mike Chapman of the Burbank Human Relations Council in front to accept the proclamation, which I will read. Thanks, Mike. It's from the City of Burbank proclamation, the National Days of Remembrance, confronting the Holocaust, the American responses. Whereas the Holocaust was a state-sponsored, systematic persecution and annihilation of European Jewry by Nazi Germany and its collaborators between 1933 and 1945, 6 million were murdered. Roma, Gypsies, people with disabilities, and Poles were also targeted for destruction or decimation for racial, ethnic, or national reasons, and millions more, including homosexuals, Jehovah's Witnesses, Soviet prisoners of war, and political dissidents, also suffered grievous oppression and death under Nazi tyranny. And whereas the history of the Holocaust offers an opportunity to reflect on the moral responsibilities of individuals, societies, and governments, and whereas we, the people of the City of Burbank, should always remember the terrible events of the Holocaust and remain vigilant against hatred, persecution, and tyranny, and whereas we, the people of the City of Burbank, should actively rededicate ourselves to the principles of individual freedom in a just society, and whereas the days of remembrance have been set aside for the people of the City of Burbank to remember the victims of the Holocaust, as well as to reflect on the need for respect of all peoples, and whereas pursuant to an act of Congress, Public Law 96-388, October 7th, 1980, the United States Holocaust Memorial Council designates the days of remembrance of the victims of the Holocaust to be Sunday, April 27th through Sunday, May 4th, 2014, including the day of remembrance known as Yom HaShoah, April 28th, 2014. Now, therefore, I, David Gordon, Mayor of the City of Burbank, do hereby proclaim this week of Sunday, April 27th through Sunday, May 4th, 2014, as days of remembrance in memory of the victims of the Holocaust and in honor of the survivors as well as the rescuers and liberators, and further proclaim that we, as citizens of the City of Burbank, should work to promote human dignity and confront hate whenever and wherever it occurs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And on behalf of the Burbank Human Relations Council, we want to thank you and the council members for presenting this proclamation.
I want to also take a brief moment to thank the members once again of the Holocaust Remembrance Committee. Each year they put this memorial on, and it's important that we do recognize and remember because, as was stated, genocide is not something that's just something in the past. It's something that is here even today that we have to be ever guarding against. So thank you again for your participation. Mr. Manoogian, will you please step forward? Mr. Manoogian will be followed by Irma Luz.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, staff, and the public at large. My name is Ara Manoogian. I'm a resident of Burbank and a business owner. And as I spoke at the last council meeting that was on the 22nd of last month, where we commemorated the Armenian Genocide. Today we commemorate the Day of Remembrance. And unfortunately, I'm here to speak to you about the same thing that I spoke last week. And I have these flyers that I'd like to give to council members and staff if possible. Let me actually take one of those, sorry. We've started a movement in the United States by American citizens called No Bombs for Syria, and we've prepared a pamphlet, which everybody is getting. And unfortunately today, there's, as Mayor Gordon had said in his comments after we spoke of the Remembrance Day, that there are atrocities still going on in the world that we need to be aware of. And hopefully we can do things which will help to alleviate the suffering and maybe even prevent some destruction that doesn't need to take place. Today in Syria, there is what our government likes to claim as a revolution going on by moderate rebels. But in fact, today, the moderate rebels, which may have started the revolution, if we can even call it a revolution, are almost non-existent. They're a minority amongst a majority of foreign combatants. And the reason why I'm here today is because we, the members of the city of Burbank, and we, the members of the 28th district, the congressional district, are being represented by Congressman Adam Schiff, who unfortunately we have been trying for 7 to almost 8 months to meet with him to discuss these issues. And today, as last week, I visited his office to find out what the status was on our latest attempt at a meeting, which we requested in March, at the end of March, when there were some atrocities that took place in the northern part of Syria, which is an Armenian-populated area called called Kesab. And later on we discovered that it was actually invaded by a NATO country, Turkey, which is also supported by the United States. But in these last few days, weapons have fallen in the hands of these insurgents, these combatants, foreign combatants, which have been supplied by the United States government and specifically approved by Congress, and Adam Schiff, our representative, being somebody who has shown support in the past for these. So the reason why I'm here today, again, is to bring awareness to this and also to suggest to the city of Burbank, and if there is a possibility to have some sort of outreach program to our citizens, because most don't know how they're being represented in Washington by our representative today. And that's the reason why. So if anybody wants to be informed, and I hope that people are being informed because the news media is not covering this any longer. Now they're talking about more the Ukraine rather than Syria. But there are atrocities going on. Hundreds of people are dying every day from both sides. And the legitimate government is being demonized by the United States government. And in fact, I was looking at an old city council meeting from 2012 where Congressman Schiff on the Armenian Genocide Recognition Day, or the day that we recognize the Armenian Genocide, actually got up here and was talking about Bashar al-Assad, the president, and how he's killing his people. And this has been going on for many years from our representative, who has been demonizing Assad in this manner. So again, I would ask the City Council and members of the community to educate yourselves. You can visit nobombsforsyria.com, a website that we've started for this movement. This is not an organization. This is just concerned citizens of the United States wanting to make sure that their voice is being heard and that we are being represented as our values and the core values that America was formed on today. So thank you very much for your time, and I hope that maybe we can do something with the city to bring some sort of awareness. Again, we're not trying to push a specific agenda. We just want people to be aware and come to their own conclusions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Manoogian.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be before you, and Mr. Mayor and council members. I want to thank you for this beautiful commemoration. I'm very proud to live in a city that so beautifully recognizes the Armenian Genocide and has the courage to speak out on this incredibly dark chapter in the history of mankind. Right now, as we meet halfway around the world, another brutal dictator is murdering his own people by the thousands. And as we speak, a courageous American diplomat is reporting back to the United States and reporting to the world of the atrocities being committed there. The dictator is Bashar al-Assad, and the diplomat is a humble man named Robert Ford. And his reports are in the best tradition of American diplomacy. And they harken back to the time when Henry Morgenthau was our ambassador to the Ottoman Empire. And he brought to the world's attention the horrors that were going on, the effort by the Ottomans to wipe out an entire people. The example of Henry Morgenthau and Robert Ford is one that should be a source of great pride for us and a source of great example, I would hope, to the State Department at the highest levels and to our President. We were deeply disappointed today that the President did not recognize the Armenian Genocide. We do ourselves no favors, we do Turkey no favors when we fail to speak plainly the truth about genocide. How can we have the moral authority to speak out in Syria when we are subject to the claim Yes, you will speak out about the murder of thousands of Syrians, but not the murder of millions of Armenians. That is not a principled position for us to take. Even as we worry about the Armenian community in Syria, the very survivors of that march into the desert, we must speak out about what happens there. Indeed, we have to speak out about human rights abuses and atrocities wherever they occur. And this is all the more true when it comes to genocide. We cannot pick and choose our genocides. We must recognize them. We must speak forcefully about them. As Elie Wiesel once said, the denial of genocide is the final chapter of genocide. And we are therefore in the final chapter of the Armenian genocide. And when people ask, why should we care so much about something that happened so long ago? The genocide still goes on in this campaign of denial. It is still a very fresh injury, and we should care, because it undermines our authority to speak with conviction about what's happening today. And we owe it to the memory of those who were lost. So I thank you again, members of the city, and I thank the students for their beautiful presentation. In these young Armenian children, in their devotion to their language and their culture and the faith of their parents and grandparents and great-grandparents for generations, we see the success of the Armenian community and we see the failure of the Ottoman Empire. Their effort to wipe out a people was a terrible, tragic, but miserable failure. And the Armenian community of Phoenix Lake has risen from the brink of destruction to be a source of great pride. And we know that those that were lost in the desert must look down on all that the Armenian community has accomplished with the most profound sense of pride. And we thank you again. Have a good evening.